Hello everyone and welcome back to my recreation of the original Jurassic Park in Jurassic World Evolution, at least based on my interpretation and the best of my abilities in terms of recreating this park in Jurassic World Evolution. Again, if you have any tips for me on how to improve the park as you see it progress, please leave those tips for me down in the comments, because I will be doing an extra episode in which I will incorporate some things that I thought of myself after the fact, but also some helpful things that you have all been saying in the comments, so that really is a lot of help, so thank you guys so much. And also, if you want to see how this park gets completed and you want to see the finished tour and you don't want to miss out on that, please consider subscribing to the channel and ringing the bell so you'll get notifications of a new upload, because I will be uploading these episodes at quite a fast pace. I want to have everything done before Christmas, and yeah, that's just, I suppose, my lame Christmas present to you guys. So what we're doing in this episode, I'm going to be creating some of the exhibits, in particular the Dilophosaurus exhibit, and we're going to finally release some dinosaurs as well as start work on the guest area. So right now what you're seeing me doing is I'm continuing the tour track. I think I changed it up a little bit after the fact. What the exhibits that we're going to have here is first, of course, the Dilophosaurus exhibit, because that's the first one to come up in the tour, at least as far as we are able to see in the movie. Of course, they don't actually see anything, but they do explicitly come up on that enclosure. So that will be on the right side of the track, and on the left, a little bit further down, is where I'm going to add the Proceratosaurus exhibit. So I'm having a think right now about how I want to tackle this. Some dinosaurs are ready to get out of the oven, so that's very helpful. You know, I do plan to have some dinosaurs on this dinosaur tour. You can see here, one of my mistakes, the Pachycephalosaurus. For some reason, I was completely convinced that there were supposed to be Pachycephalosaurus in with the Brachiosaurus and the Parasaurolophus. I didn't come up with that myself. I heard some other people say that at some point in time. I don't know who, I don't know when, I don't know why, I don't know how, but I heard someone else say that, and I completely took it as gospel and ran with it. But this is one of the things that I will be correcting in that bonus episode. You know, just little tweaks to the park to make it the best I can possibly make it. Of course, you know, it is a little bit difficult to try and get it as accurate as possible, because there are still limitations in the game, especially with regards to having the tour tracks cross over paths and such, or doubling back. There's really no way to do that. So, you know, I'm just having fun with it. Right now, I'm starting the Dilophosaurus exhibit, just trying to figure out how I want it. I really like how close you can get it to the tour track. That's really nice that you can get it as close like that. The exhibit is kind of, I don't know, lung-shaped or something. That's a little weird, or leaf-shaped. And it just follows the track on one side. And of course, we are going to be adding the lovely signs that have been added to the game, which I think are such an excellent addition. And I really hope that it's the start of more decorative, quote-unquote decorative, items being added to the game. I think it might be. I mean, they made an extra tab for it in the interface, and they have the symbol of a sign on that tab, but they can very easily just change the symbol on that tab to something else, something decorative, and then includes like some placeable fountains or planters and stuff like that under that tab. I really think that it is a possibility, and I hope that they do run with it and go in that direction to include just some decorative elements, because that would help so much in park building. So that is basically the layout of the Dilophosaurus exhibit. I first considered splitting it in two to have it share that space with the Proceratosaurus, but I decided against it and gave the Proceratos their own little thing on the side. I'm using the light cable fence for this, and that's because I don't want this fencing to show up in the same way as the perimeter fencing in our map overview, as you can see right here. The electrified fencing, they really stand out, so you keep that layout with the with the fence shapes that we see in the movie, you know, flashing on and off, giving all kinds of alerts. And then this is a little less noticeable. It doesn't detract from that design. So that's the reasoning behind it, even though this fencing isn't exactly movie accurate. But I mean, we only have one fence that's actually sort of movie accurate, and that's the electrified fence. What am I doing now? I think I'm going to extend it just a little bit, give our Proceratosaurus a little bit more space. Again, let me know in the comments what other dinosaurs I should add to this park. I'm having some trouble still with sources that disagree with one another. I mean, I looked it up on Wikipedia. I know that's not the most reliable source, but you know, that is something that can be openly edited, so I'm assuming in this case that's going to be pretty accurate, and I included a list of the dinosaurs that I found on Wikipedia. But that list didn't include the Herrerasaurus, whereas some people are explicitly telling me that the Herrerasaurus was also supposed to be on there, so I'm not so sure anymore. I'm not sure about anything anymore, basically. I'm just, I'll just wait to see what you guys say. And if not, if I don't get any other suggestions, I'm just going to stick with that list that I found on Wikipedia. And based on your suggestions, I guess I can use the Apatosaurus as a Brontosaurus stand-in. The Brontosaurus wasn't featured in Jurassic Park the movie, but according to the Wikipedia article, it was mentioned. So I'm guessing the name just pops up somewhere on screen, or maybe... Oh, maybe it's the skeleton from the lobby? Maybe that's supposed to be the Brontosaurus? I'm not sure. I always thought that was supposed to be the Brachiosaurus, but I think it might have been the skeleton Brontosaurus. Anyway, I'm rambling, as I tend to do. I've shot my Pachycephalosaurus, and I'm going to move them over into the exhibit, only to be removing them at in a later episode, of course. I'm thinning out the foliage a little bit. I rewatched that part of the movie, you know, just really quickly, and I noticed that my logic initially was, okay, they're not seeing anything just because of the thick tree line, but I rewatched that part of the movie, and you can actually see through the trees quite well. They just don't happen to see any of the Dilophosaurus, so that's why I thinned it out a little bit and added the placeable trees instead, because they look a little bit more like what we see in the movie, with a longer trunk and not so much low-hanging branches. It is now time to add the iconic sign, the first sign that they see in the movie. If I remember correctly, I thought I checked this. I'm not sure anymore. But the sign is actually on the other side than the fences are, so that's why I placed it on the opposite side. Adding more trees to just make it look a little bit more, well, appealing to the eye, I suppose. And then we're moving over to the Proceratosaurus exhibit. And of course we don't have a sign for the Proceratosaurus. So what I'll be using is just the sign for the small carnivores. It's really interesting that we have a sign for medium carnivores. I'll be using that later on. I don't think in this video, but in the next one. Because according to the game, we don't actually have medium carnivores. We only have small and large carnivores, and that has been a complaint in the community that Ceratosaurus, Metracanthosaurus, and the like are considered large carnivores, just like the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the Spinosaurus, and so on and so forth. And that's not exactly representative of reality, and I think that's Frontier listened to that, and that's why they added the sign for medium carnivores to sort of, you know, meet us halfway. I guess they can't really overhaul the game mechanics at this point and really reassign the Metriacanthosaurus and its similarly sized buds as medium-sized carnivores, but the sign is a nice touch, so we can just pretend in our heads that they are in fact medium-sized. And I just love those signs. It is funny though, I think in the next episode I'm going to be recreating the part of the park where Nedry crashes his Jeep, and of course he runs over one of those little signs that we also have in the game. And those little signs are really hard to work with because you can barely see which way the arrow is pointing when you're just using, you know, the building camera mode. Only when you go into capture mode can you zoom in enough to actually really see which way the arrow is pointing. So it's always a bit of a a surprise which way it's actually pointing. But still, it's really nice that we have those small signs as well. They're just so iconic, you know? They make for great thumbnails too. Sorry. Oh, this is a really long video, by the way. This is the longest of the bunch. Looking at it now, I think it's like... I don't know, what is that? Oh, it's not showing because I'm in recording mode, but it's like 38 minutes or something like that. So that's really long. I'm sorry about that. This video just happened to be a little bit longer. This is also a video where there are going to be 2 cuts. One of them already happened. That's because I hopped out of the game to briefly look at the movie. And another one is coming up in like 5 minutes or so. And that's because I had a lot of trouble with the guest facilities, but we'll talk about that later. But other than that, this is all just a real-time build, so you can really see the entire process and see me screw up a couple of times as well. You know, I'm just being honest with these uploads. I screw up a lot of the time, even when I'm really trying not to. I still screw up, and I figure it's only fair to show that and to give you realistic expectations of the kind of time investment it is to recreate at least this interpretation of the park. I know a lot of people in the end might be dissatisfied with some of the creative liberties I've taken, and also just the forced liberties I had to take, you know, because of the limitations of the game. But again, I keep saying this, I did my best with it. So I just did a little bit of work on the access road that the jeeps actually go through when they pick up everyone from the helipad and take them to the visitor center. Now I'm moving over my Pachycephalosaurus, who I'm pretty sure were nearly starving or getting dehydrated at this point. And the Brachiosaurus are done as well, so we'll be adding those shortly. Right now, maybe? No? Oh, first we're going to incubate. I think I'm going for, yeah, Gallimimus. We need to be incubating a lot of those because, of course, we have a big old herd that we need to add to nearly run over Alan, Tim, and Lex. Here are Brachiosaurus. Done. We're gonna look at the Brachies in a minute. Don't worry, I just wanted to get the ranger team on it as quickly as possible. There she comes, awkwardly walking through a tree. Oh, ranger team 2, don't be a jerk. It's a dinosaur. Sorry. Not the most flattering camera angle for our big girl. Ranger Team 2 finally found its way to its destination. Good job, Anya.
Asset being transported.
Okay, so in like a minute or so, I have a cut coming up, a little edit where I cut out a pretty lengthy part of me literally replacing the hotels like 3 or 4 times because I kept misplacing them. I kept not making the best use of the space. I wanted 2 hotels in the end, and the way I configured it initially, I only had space for 1, and it just didn't look right. So I wanted to make it look pretty as well. So we have a cut nearly there. Nearly there you go. So I relayed the paths a little bit. I also relayed the tour track, making it go further to the left. That does take it a little bit closer to the surface road than I would have liked, but that is the compromise I had to make. Also, that ugly path on the other side, well, that's just the access from the helipad that's all the way down south. Really trying to squeeze that second hotel in there, or lodges basically. I love that design, by the way. I really wish that they would have added that they could be placed in water. That would be so cool because they're, you know, they're built on struts, so that would have been really cool. Now, what am I doing? What am I actually doing? Oh, right. So that's how I solved that ugly path running on the other side of the hotels. I actually decided to run it by the tour track instead, so I could hide it just a little bit better away from the guest facilities. So now I have a pretty nice space to work with for our guests. Unfortunately, I couldn't really add a tree line behind the hotel there. That's really a shame. I really wanted to hide that from that initial access road and from the tour track as well. So I filled it up with the placeable trees as much as possible, but there are a lot of limitations in terms of that, so you can still see it, unfortunately. But that's what I decided to go with. You know, just pretend that it's a thick tree line that you can't see through, and that it's all nicely hidden away, secluded, private, you know, relaxing. After a long day of sitting in a car, waiting to see if you're actually going to see any dinosaurs on the dinosaur tour. Coming up, pretty much the only path design in the entire park, which is pretty new for me. You probably know me as someone who goes overboard with path design normally, but I kept it really natural for this park. That just made the most sense. You know, Jurassic Park wasn't presented as an overly designed space. I mean, the buildings were designed wonderfully, of course, but the exterior was all very natural. Not a lot of theme park stuff going on in that regard. So in a moment, I'm also going to have fun placing the new lights. I love lights in games like this. It's one of the biggest things I love about Planet Zoo and Planet Coaster, and something I really wish they would carry over from those games into Jurassic Park. I just think lighting is so atmospheric and has such a big effect on an environment that I'd really love if they would incorporate more of that into this game. What I'm doing now is I'm just going to line this path that goes up to the guest facilities with lights. I figured that would be, you know, something they might do in a fancy resort, you know, have like an illuminated path leading up to your expensive hotels. And it's just, you know, a little bit of design. I couldn't help myself. I am making it a little bit difficult for myself, though, because I'm placing all of these lights right now, but I have to attach buildings after this, and it's kind of difficult to select those little buggers with the delete tool. So if you're going to be recreating my version of the original Jurassic Park, please don't place those lights until the very end, because it really was a pain trying to delete them and not the path that they're next to make room to have access to the other guest facilities, so the shop and the cafe. Also, I realized at this point how much closer you can get them to the path, and I thought to myself, do I want to redo all of those other lights? And I figured, no, I don't, so I just kept them at this similar distance. But just so you know, and it really is lovely, that you can place lights and these signs as well really close to the paths. I really love that, and I wish I would have realized that sooner. I kind of Yeah, you know, after nearly 600 hours in this game, you sort of assume that stuff has horrible hitboxes around them, but these lights and the signs are really, really cool in that regard. So yeah, that doesn't fit. So grumble, grumble, grumble. But we're gonna work around that. If I do, yeah, there you go, managed to select. Now, something really weird was going on with the path connection for the shops. I guess I'll show that in a second. So I'm going to select a shop and do that. I'm not sure if it shows up right away. I couldn't fit it in right there because the lights were still in the way, unfortunately. No, the tree is in the way. There's always something in the way. So I'm just waiting. So he doesn't clip on because the light is in the way, but I figured, you know, that's no problem. I can attach it with a bit of path after placing it. But that turned out to be difficult because the path wouldn't hook onto that little bit of path that is actually coming out of the building. For some reason, that didn't work. You'll see in a little bit. I'm a little bit ahead of what I'm actually doing on screen. There, so I'm placing the cafe. Again, it doesn't attach directly. And here, you see, it doesn't want to clip onto the path of the building. Instead, it just says that it's obstructed. So that was really annoying. I couldn't get it to attach. See, he just doesn't want to grab onto it. And now he just goes all the way around and says it's obstructed. That was pretty frustrating, and that's definitely a bug. I hope that gets fixed soon. So I had to work my way around that in a little bit. I don't remember how I solved it in the end. There you go, just getting rid of the buildings. Cursing under my breath again, trying to trying to grab more lights. Oh, what I ended up doing, I remember now. I ended up letting them snap onto the path rather than connecting them with a separate bit of path. And that's what I was talking about, that it's really a pain trying to get the delete tool to select those tiny, tiny lights. Okay, so attempt number 2, to place buildings. There, it works fine like that when it's just allowed to snap onto an existing path, but the previous method just really didn't work. But, you know, this worked out fine in the end as well. I just had to delete more lights than I wanted to. Filling in those gaps again. At least this way I have one row of lights. Oh, something's starving. Yeah, I completely forgot about the Brachiosaurus. Oops, please forgive me. No animals were harmed. Actually, they were. But, oops. Don't worry, they're going to be fine in the end. I mean, at some point, 2 of them were dying, but, you know, they were being uncooperative, let's put it that way. They were in the pen, they had their feeders, they just refused to eat, so I had to shoot them in the butt a couple of times before things eventually worked themselves out. Don't worry. None of the Brachiosaurus actually died. Again, the horrible hitboxes around things. I really wish you could place things closer together than this. Trying to hide the buildings as much as possible. Failing to do so, but whatever. These palm trees are my favorites because they are the best at squeezing them into tight places. Talk dirty to me. Restroom, also pretty important to add nowadays. Nearly forgot about that. I'm placing trees here now, but I'm going to add a second row of path and add another cafe and another gift shop. Just to get the rating up as much as possible. Unfortunately, that palm didn't fit in that circle, which I really hated, so I had to use one of the other trees. Not that one also doesn't fit. But luckily we can always trust tree number 2 to do the trick.
Collecting asset. Asset collection request received. Asset to be collected. Asset has been delivered. Asset has been collected. Commencing asset transit. Asset in transit. Task received. Asset has been transported. Delivery has been completed. Asset has been delivered.
In preparation of our Gallimimus arriving to this exhibit, I added some water. I hid it in the trees because it wasn't really a prominent part of the exhibit as we see in the movie, as far as I was able to remember. Our second batch of Gallimimus are ready to enter the park, so I'm doing just that, and I'm going to shoot them wherever the rangers manage to hit them, and then we're going to move them over into their exhibit. I don't know what I'm thinking about at this point. Probably getting distracted by something, my phone maybe. There you go, she's awake again, on the move. Now, I did have some issues with the Brachiosaurus not going for the feeders, but like I said, they'll be fine in the end. So now we're going to continue work on the T-Rex exhibit, a pretty important exhibit. Like I said before, I am using the heavy cable fence for this, even though that's from Jurassic Park 3. For the exact same reason that I use the light cable fence for the other exhibits. I didn't want this fencing to show up the same way as the electrified perimeter fencing in map view, because that would completely distort the design that I painstakingly spent like half an hour recreating. So that is why, of course, it's not ideal, because you don't get that iconic replication of this this movie moment, but that is one of the compromises that I made for this park. Please forgive me. I don't really like the look of it though, so I might still change it after the fact, but for now I just want to enjoy how good everything still looks in map view.
Adding task.
There, having the ranger tranquilize the last of the Gallimimus. And transporting them over, of course.
to pick up the asset. Picking up asset.
It's going to be a challenge trying to decide where to put all of the dinosaurs that were set to be part of the movie universe for the first Jurassic Park, that is,
Heading to pick up
because they don't show up on the map references that I found. I found 3 map references that I thought the quality was pretty good on. And for example, none of them mentioned the Brontosaurus, none of them had the Stegosaurus, so I'm not really sure where I'd put them. Okay, so here I'm gonna go over and save my Brachiosaurus from dying, which was really, really awful. I was like, no, not my Brachies. Just hiding the tour track a little bit more.
asset has been
What was I
collected.
gonna say?
Asset transportation.
Yeah, the tour track is something I'm also going to be tweaking quite a bit during the bonus episode. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out in the end, but there's one aspect... Oh, I just hit my microphone. Why do I always do that? I think he's a bad boy. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, but there's one part that I really want to improve on. But you'll see that in the later episodes. We're now just deciding what to do, where to take the tour track from here. It's just come out between the Dilophosaurus paddock and the Proceratosaurus paddock, and I need to figure out where to go from there. The map that I'm referencing during this build said that there were Stegosaurus in the park as well. I'll obviously be using Compsognathus as a stand-in for that, and I had to figure out where to place those guys. But I think I need to take them out in the bonus episode because they don't... The Stegosaurus doesn't appear in any of the other materials I found aside from that map that I had been using. I really picked the wrong map, didn't I? Rookie mistake. So our Tyrannosaurus and Triceratops are underway. I think I'm also using this moment to start incubating the Dilophosaurus as well as the Proceratosaurus. Proceratosaurus is a pain in the ass to have in challenge mode, by the way. I keep having flashbacks to my challenge mode failure, which I really hate. I'm guessing at this point I'm distracted by my phone again, which is why the cursor isn't moving for forever. There you go. She's back. We're gonna move the last of the Gallimimus over. I might have to add even more Gallimimus. It was a pretty substantial herd that nearly trampled. What's that sound? Sorry, I don't know if the microphone is picking that up, but I'm hearing a really weird sound in the distance, even through my noise-canceling headphones. That's weird. Okay. Never mind. If this video gets uploaded, my house wasn't just broken into by an axe murderer who's come in to dismember me. Yeah, okay. I'm seriously looking over my shoulder right now. Alrighty, we're just continuing on. Well, it would be a weird time to... as an axe murderer, this would be a weird time to break into someone's house to kill them. It's it's 1:45 on a Sunday afternoon. That's a weird timing. Okay, so we're incubating a couple of Dilophosaurus, and it looks like I am indeed going for the Proceratosaurus next. There you go. I'm using my 2 favorite skins, which are Vivid and Jungle. I love those 2 skin patterns, and if you saw my video on my favorite skins, you'll know that the Vivid Proceratosaurus is actually my 2nd favorite skin in the game in its entirety. Of course, it must be said, that video was made before the Return to Jurassic Park DLC dropped, and even before the Raptor Squad DLC dropped, so, you know, it's not the most representative video anymore. Definitely some of the movie skins would have made that list if I'd made it at a later date, but you know, I can't change the past. It is what it is. It's out there. I might have to revisit that subject at some point and like do a revised list now, because I have some clear preferences for the for a new top 10. I guess you can all guess which one it is. So I'm also breeding Metracanthosaurus and Baryonyx. Metracanthosaurus is okay. He can stay. We only see him in the original Jurassic Park in the cryo lab, where Nedry is pulling out the embryos to steal them. We don't actually see it in the park, but let's just assume that all of the dinosaurs for which they have embryos, they are at some point they either have already bred them or they will at some point breed them. You know, if if they didn't get screwed over by that storm and dinosaurs breaking out and chaos and whatnot. So now I think I'm still contemplating on where to put the Segisaurus, Compsognathus. This river leading down would go to the east dock. Of course, with the way I've oriented my park build, the east dock is actually landlocked at this point, but I just figured this was the best use of the space. And that's also where Nedry is gonna go. So in the next episode, I'm going to figure out Nedry's trajectory through the park. You know, figure out where he gets stuck and where the road would go that he actually wanted to go down. And I really enjoyed doing that. That was a fun little thing, trying to recreate that. So here I'm adding the fences. I'm using heavy cable fence. I'm going to replace that later with the light cable, because this is for the Segisaurus. Maybe I should replace the Segisaurus with maybe the Stegosaurus during the bonus episode. I don't know yet. There is quite a bit of space left over here. I do add the Baryonyx exhibit to this park, to this part of the park at some point. But of course the Baryonyx also has to exit during the bonus episode. So I do have some space for the other dinosaurs that were supposed to be here. More dinosaurs are ready to release, but I think we're going to save that for the next episode. No, we're not? No? Yeah, we are. I am such a mess. Okay, so the video is almost done. Thank you again so much for watching. Thank you for your support on this series. And thank you for supporting the channel and having it grow as much as it has. And please subscribe to the please subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of this park building series and more of Jurassic World Evolution in general. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, enjoy the game.